It is 5:30. We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Wyrock.
Here.
Councilmember Tate.
Here.
Councilmember Stowe. Here. Vice Mayor Aquila.
Present.
Mayor Flores.
Present. We will now go into oral communications. This is the opportunity to address the City Council in any matter scheduled for closed session unless additional time is authorized by the council. All commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone here that would like to come up?
3 minutes. Until I start talking, don't put it on yet. I have to button up. Mayor Flores, distinguished council, I just wanted to come in tonight. It's been a while since I've been here. I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm not here to anything else, but just to say thank you for the great job most of you done and those that have stepped up through the pandemic. I know you have folks that come in here and say that this and that, but more importantly than anything else, I, as a citizen of this community and those folks that I know out there, you've done a good job. Your staff has done an excellent job getting us through this portion of our history. So as we move forward, I just looking forward to this council and after elections, whatever council's there, to maintain the integrity of the council that Porterville has had for over 160 years. Mr. Wayrock, you have joined a family that's very small, 162 years or 61 years in history. There's very few in Porterville that can say they've actually sat up there on that dais. One scenario is that people say, well, they think they're high and mighty because they said hi. I said, no. They said hi so everyone can see them. So you're in a fishbowl. And in a fishbowl, sometimes it gets a little dirty and murky, but you still have to keep on moving. So as far as a citizen from this community and a longtime member of our community that gets actively involved, I want to thank you all for the job you've done. Continue doing the work of the city of Porterville. Once again, you get a lot more information than we do. I can read the agenda, I can read the minutes, but I don't get all the background that you get. So any decision you make, it's made with all the information before you. Once again, with the great staff that you have that are giving you everything are the facts. Just like old Dragnet, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. So once again, I just wanted to come in here and say that to you all and welcome you onto this dais. And like I said, it is a small but tight-knit community. And I wish those folks that were here were harping on those individuals that put their name up in the hat. But I tell you what we see sometimes, because this internet, people see all over the place. If somebody's looking at a business in Porterville, I'm glad they didn't come in on that day and saw what I saw from our community. Our community is not that way. Porterville is an entire family. We can fight with each other, but we don't do it in public. So thank you all very much and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martinez. Is there anyone else that would like to come up under oral communications? Do we have anyone on virtually?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll now move into the closed session items.
Thank you, Your Honor. There are 5 items before the council in closed session this evening. The first is pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, Conflict of Labor Negotiator, Agency Negotiator John Lawless and Patrice Hildreth, employee organizations, Porterville Peace Officer Association, Fire Officer Series, Porterville City Firefighters Association, and all unrepresented management employees. Item 2, Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D, subsection 1, legal counsel, existing litigation, Julian Vasquez v. City of Porterville, Tulare County Superior Court Case Number VCU 292752. Item 3, Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D, subsection 1, legal counsel, existing litigation, Kylie Mae Horton v. City of Porterville et al., Tulare County Superior Court Case Number VCU 293248. Item 4, Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D, subsection 3, legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, 5 cases in which facts are not yet known to potential plaintiff. And item 5, Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D, subsection 4, legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation, 1 case. Staff.
Thank you. It's 5:34. We will now go into closed session. ready? It is 6:33. We will reconvene open session and report on reportable action taken in closed session.
Nothing to report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask that you please stand. Councilmember Wyrock will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for an invocation. Is there anyone that would like to come forward and do an invocation? If not, please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. We will now go into oral communications. This is the opportunity to address the council on any matter of interest, whether on the agenda or not. Please address all items not scheduled for public hearing at this time, unless additional time is authorized by the council. All commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes, and we'll ask that you please state your name and address for the record. If there is anyone that would like to come forward for oral communications, please do so now.
Brock Neely, address on record. This is kind of towards you, Madam Mayor. When you first got elected to the council, one of the first problem issues you had to work on was Highway 65 between Lindsay and Porterville. They did an extremely crappy job of surfacing it. Well, it's back between Henderson and 190. They didn't even bother fixing the bumps before they put that crappy coating on top of it. So you need to find out who accepted that project and tell them they don't know what they're doing, because that's lousy. I mean, you look at the quality of the work they've been doing on 99 compared to this. What are we, the forgotten stepchildren over here? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward?
Good evening. Nice to see you all. My name is Dan Blazer. I'm here representing the Porterville Chamber of Commerce. I'm one of the board directors, and we'd just like to give you a brief update as to things that have been going on. Our newest member, Dollop Boutique, has officially opened their business. We had a ribbon cutting for them last week, and we do appreciate everybody's support in being at that grand opening. Our nominations are now closed for our annual awards, and we want to thank everyone who has participated in that and in nominating people to recognize our outstanding businesses and people within our community. We've been working closely with the Porterville Unified School District Pathways programs to help connect staff and students with partner opportunities in the community. And we've been connecting with our neighboring chambers of commerce in other partnership opportunities, working more closely with them to promote tourism for our area and through the Sequoia Tourism Council. Our next First Friday Coffee is on October 7th. The Central California Crisis Center, Family Crisis Center is hosting, and in honor of recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We look forward to seeing all of your smiling faces there. And we will be holding our business showcase and food tasting on October 12th at the Veterans Building. It's from 5:30 to 7:30. It is free to attend and open to the public. Our businesses and organizations will be showcasing their services, products. We will have some good food there for everybody to taste, and lots of chances to win some great prizes. So we look forward to seeing you all there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please come forward.
Hello, my name is Randy Hawthorne. I live at 1425 West North Grand Avenue here in Porterville. I have a student at Wenatchee went to Wenatchee. And there's in my opinion, an issue with Mulberry and Newcomb. For one, it's like a herd of cattle have been released when school's letting out. And I've been there every day because my daughter goes to school there, either dropping her off or picking her up. And there's a red curb when you turn onto Mulberry. People stop there to drop off their kids. It does cause chaos at the intersection, but so do traffic that are all in a hurry. I personally feel there should be a stoplight at that intersection. And Mulberry itself, there's a red zone where all the parents stop to drop their kids off. I physically have watched a police officer parked there with their lights on, not doing any business other than diverting people from stopping there, so they were breaking the law to enforce the law, which was hypocritical. But my suggestion would be right after the buses pull out, there's about a 10-foot section of red curb. All the students that don't have permits or don't want to deal with waiting for half an hour to get out of the student parking lot, they park all the way down Mulberry to the back of Walmart. I think that first section where the buses pull out, there's a red section. I think half of that should be either a yellow curb for drop-off and pickup or a green curb for 20-minute parking, so the students avoid that. Parents can pull past the red zone, not get a ticket, not cause chaos at the intersection.
Mr. Huffman, thank you very much. Is there someone else that would like to come forward? Is there anyone on virtually?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. All right. We will then now move on to the AB 1234 reports. This is the time for all AB 1234 reports required pursuant to Government Code 53232.3. Local Initiatives Navigation Center Committee meeting. Is there someone that's going to do the report? I know Councilmember Tate was at the conference. Hi, Claudia.
Hello, that'll be me.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good
Please.
evening, everyone. So the Porterville Link Committee held a virtual meeting on September 7th, 2022, and the city staff in attendance were Christina Tank and myself. The committee adopted their 2022-2023 budget. They went on to finalize 2 fundraising events. One of them is the coat drive that is currently underway, and they're accepting donations of new and used coats, sleeping bags, and gloves through October 14th, 2022. And the second one is a drive-through dinner, and that one is planned for October 6th at Trinity Lutheran Church, and tickets are $15 and available to purchase from any committee member or at City Hall, and they can contact Christine Tank for that. Both fundraisers are for the purpose of supporting the annual winter coat giveaway. That one is scheduled to take place Wednesday, November 2nd from 9 to 1 at the Welcome Center, and the funds will also further support any of the Link Committee efforts to continue to bring more services to the people experiencing homelessness, and as well to support any items that are needed for the annual point-in-time count. And the committee continues to seek a chair as that position remains vacant. And the next meeting is scheduled for October 5th, 2022 at 3 p.m. And that concludes my report, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much, Claudia, for that information.
You're welcome.
Okay. The League of California Cities 2022 Annual Conference. There were 3 of us council members that were in attendance. I will go ahead and unfold the dialogue. It was from September the 7th through the 9th. We arrived on the 7th for the opening general session. And the keynote speaker is actually was the first and only head coach to win consecutive Women's World Cup victories. And she is also the first national team coach, men or women, to win back-to-back World Cup titles. So that was how it was prefaced. But she sent a supportive and a strong message to those of us who were in attendance. She spoke of how in today's environment it can be difficult to engage one-on-one to a common goal, that not everyone will be satisfied and cannot please everyone. She highlighted in her presentation personal connection, courage, confidence, and risk-taking. She shared her persona strategies to successfully lead, get involved, stay involved, and to continue to mentor. The next day, we separated into different sessions, staff and council members. So we would go to the sessions that we decided to go while others attended others. The one that I attended on the 8th was titled Defending Institution, Promoting Civic Debate and Rejecting Personal Attacks. The moderator was Jim Lewis, the city manager for Pismo Beach. Panel speakers were Larry Gonzalez, the chief of police for Riverside, and mayor of Riverside, Patricia Locke Dawson. I was pleased with the session. It was on the emphasis of how public discourse has become increasingly hostile in the last couple of years. At times, the escalation is verbal and physical threats against city employees and elected officials. And how can city leaders and administrators protect themselves and their families while fostering community trust in the age of digitalization, such as social media and outrage on social media? Scenarios were provided, and so were brief discussions. Photos that were presented one of them was a photo of the Oakland mayor's home. It was filled with profanity that was very harsh, and it had a lot of graffiti. The Sacramento mayor's home, which her landscaping was destroyed. The Sacramento city managers, there was a big concern for his safety. An angry crowd was in front of his house, which included in that discussion of the 2020 protests. All of it was an emphasis to continue to work to coordinate with business. According to a study that was presented there from the State and Local Government Review, women who are mayors are twice as likely to be hit with psychological abuse and 3 times more likely to be the subject of physical violence. The question was asked of those in attendance as to how many are experiencing the abusive outburst, and to respond by a show of hands. I was sitting in the back, and there were a lot of hands that were raised in this session, and the affirmation and how we choose to handle each situation and how to protect yourself. It was reiterated that meetings are to be conducted in order of business, and a list was provided on how to protect ourselves. And that was addressed because there are many things that are happening in other cities, and they wanted to share those situations, how within the last couple of years there has been an increase in outbursts, especially on social media and in council chambers. In the general session, the keynote address, it was entitled The Future of California. I actually appreciated this session because with the changes in our economy, workforce, and communities, it was important to understand the demographic, the economic, and the political trends expected in the future. We were provided with the latest research and data and how cities can use this data and resources to promote opportunity, equity, and sustainability for the community. The next one that I attended on that day was the ARPA to General Fund Leveraging Today for Capital's Tomorrow Savings. We never know who's going to attend the sessions. We block our schedules. I was pleased to see that our city manager, Mr. Lawless, and Councilmember Wyrock attended the session alongside and gather information. I attended to grasp what other cities were doing or maybe doing different than us as a city. Cities have the unique opportunity to invest in the critical infrastructure, from water system to broadband, indoor air quality, etc. It was the sharing of ideas, questions, and answers. It pleases me to say that our city staff, along with our city manager, have worked diligently to have project ready for some of these ARPA funds. The last session that I wanted to attend was entitled How to Be an Effective Partner During CEQA Tribal Consultation. That one was canceled, and there were several of us that were disappointed. But for myself, I was happy to reconnect with several council members that I had met before, and in the networking process to meet several new council members and representatives who had not attended before, and it was nice to run into some of our colleagues on other cities from Tulare County. I'm going to pass it over to Councilmember Tate to see if she'd like to add or comment.
Excuse me. It was a very good way of being able to mix and mingle with other city leaders. One of the committees that I'm on here is the Cannabis Committee, so Councilmember Irock and I attended that. And it was the story that they told about how they incorporated dispensaries into the community was quite different than what we have been doing here. There was the mayor of the city council was very opposed to it, and there was a panel of people there, and there was basically there was a lot of discussion regarding the lobbyists, and so that portion of it, and then the way that they have pretty much complicated the bureaucracy with 5 different agencies overseeing it, and the way the tax dollars are taken and distributed and then eventually may make it back to where it should. That was a little concerning for me, so there's more to learn. But that was the one training that I attended that sort of stands out. And it was the cultural cannabis that they were representing. So anyway, but the most important thing was being able to meet other city leaders and talk to them and share information. And a lot of the main sessions were very interesting as far as the topics. I was happy to be able to attend.
Thank you. Councilmember Wyrock.
Thank you. There's 3 breakout sessions that I attended. I would like to comment on the cannabis breakout session briefly. I mentioned it during my interview that the cat's out of the bag and we have to just respond to it. And I think we've got a good plan here in town. The mayor of Antioch did share his experience growing up and being fully against bringing any dispensaries to Antioch. However, he was swayed when the plans were unveiled on how they would do it safely in their community. There was a representative from the state of California, from the taxing agency that's overseeing it, with a lot of statistics on how much revenue all of the dispensaries and growers and just all the taxes that they're receiving and how they use that money and redistribute it back to the communities to pay for law enforcement, programs for youth, things like that. It's up to the communities to invest it. And we have a committee meeting tomorrow about our own situation here in town that I will attend and share some of the best practices that I picked up there and made notes on. The second item was another item that came to us from Sacramento, and that's in regards to recycling. There's a mandate that we're going to have to do a couple things differently in our homes and in our businesses, and I believe the schools as well, to process food scraps. And there's going to be a cost to that, and not quite sure how that's all going to play out, but it's coming to a home very near to each and every one of us here in Porterville and the rest of the state. It doesn't seem like it has to be complicated. There could be some simple solutions at a low cost, and we'll try to, we'll ask you to weigh in on some potential solutions that can make it as easy to implement and soft on the pocketbook as possible. The other one was kind of an inspirational story to me. Alameda County had a deputy sheriff a number of years ago, more than 20 years ago, who saw the problem with the youth that maybe were in broken homes or low-income homes, and saw that there was nothing for them to do after school. So he put out a throwdown, I guess, to the community to try to get free soccer for all the kids after school. So he said, on this date, on this time, show up. And he somehow got soccer balls and nets, and parents showed up with their kids, and there was like 2,000 kids playing free soccer after school, sponsored by the Police Activities League. It has now grown in scope to where the probation department is now working with this Police Activities League on this youth program, kind of sponsored by the Sheriff's Department with the full blessing of the Board of Supervisors there in Alameda County. And they work with these inmates that are transitioning to their freedom through parole, and they have started community gardens throughout the Hayward, San Leandro area where these people work and serve. And then they take the food, and they're buying buses now and vans, and they're distributing this food out to the food deserts. Meanwhile, kids are playing soccer, and 20 years later, they let them all know where the problems are, and, you know, what billboard's going to get tagged next or whatever, and, you know, and there's just some opportunity for us to help the youth grow up and maybe not grow into a gang member and things like that. So it's pretty inspirational. I have a lot of information from that, some notes that I hope to share. We've got a lot of great things going on here in town with our sports center and some developing programs. So I think the more we get our youth involved, the safer we're all going to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next one is the Bells Across America. The program was sponsored by the Altamira Chapter, Daughters of American Revolution, the First Congregational Church in Porterville, and SETCO. It was well attended. It was nice to see the Boy Scouts, several community members, and friends I personally know. The program and the tribute to the signing of the United States Constitution, the significance of 4 o'clock tolling of the church bells, signifying the time the Constitution was signed. I attended, presented the proclamation on behalf of the city of Porterville, and Mr. Townsend, Dennis Townsend, on behalf of the Tulare County Board of Supervisors. Boy Scout Troop 132 did a presentation and a history of the flags, and I wanted to say congratulations to Claudia Guthrie for being recognized and presented the 2022 Community Service Award, Excellence in Community Service. That is a well-deserved recognition. I had the honor in 2019 to be awarded the same recognition from the Daughters of American Revolution, the Altamira chapter. Mr. Townsend was the guest speaker. The program concluded with the Boy Scout troop doing the flag folding ceremony. That concludes that report. The next one, the Tulare County Water Commission. There is nothing to report because that meeting was canceled. The Tulare Kings Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Ambassador Lunch. The Tulare Kings Hispanic Chamber of Commerce have resumed their ambassador luncheons in Porterville at La Cocina de Doña Maggie. Before COVID, they were meeting at Rosa's. It is a networking informational venue and an opportunity for business to promote themselves. They have collaborations with several chambers. It was nice to see local businesses and nonprofits from here and surrounding areas and representatives from the Porterville Chamber who were present and attended. Tulare Kings Hispanic Chamber of Commerce hosts these luncheons, not just in Porterville, but in Hadford and Visalia. Our own Jason Reidenauer was invited to speak and talk about the Porterville projects. He provided an overview, economic development, the population, housing, income, new activities and interest in the Riverwalk Shopping Center, plans for hotel on Henderson, Eagle Mountain Casino, and several others. In addition to Mr. Reidenauer, he was joined by city staff, Claudia Calderon and Alita Verduzco, our city manager, Mr. Lawless, including me. We were in attendance to support the venue. Thank you very much. That concludes this report. Porterville Area Development Authority Board, there was no meeting. It was canceled. The next one is the Tulare County Association of Governments. We had the meeting yesterday. City manager, vice mayor, as a TCAC Public Transit Provider Representative and I were present. I had the opportunity and the window to chair the meeting yesterday in the absence of our chair, Ms. Sheklian, Amy Sheklian. The transportation consent calendar for action items to reaffirm the conditions of State Assembly Bill 361 to continue allowing remote attendance at public meetings, and the adoption of 3 resolutions. Item of information, there was only one. It was unanimous approval by members in attendance. Under the transportation action discussion items, there were just 3 updates, nothing really to report. Those were informational items. The Caltrans update, a highlight from Mr. Navarro with regard to Porterville improvements on Westwood roundabout design and the right-of-way. The association consent calendar, the items of action, there were 5. Approval of the August 15, 2022 TCAC board meeting minutes and the minutes of August 11 of the Technical Advisory Committee meeting. The remainder were the adoption of resolutions and the reaffirmation of September as Rail Safety Month. That was a unanimous approval by members in attendance. On the association action discussion items, all items in this section were informational. There was a brief legislative update, and important to all, what was announced, we were asked to save the dates for Caltrans training, board member training, and board retreat. An item that was not on the agenda, but under the business of other business, under the TCAG transit report, Supervisor Mr. Vanderpool brought to attention the Tulare County Regional Transit Authority. No discussion was really made other than this item is on our agenda as a scheduled matter, but at the meeting, it was just briefly highlighted and brought to attention. This concludes my report. Our next meeting is Monday, October the 17th at the Porterville Fire Training Facility. The next one would be the Tulare County Regional Transit Agency. That meeting was canceled, and it is my understanding it's going to be rescheduled, Vice Mayor?
Yes,
Okay,
for next week.
okay. Thank you very much. Then that concludes all the AB 1234 reports. We'll move on to the reports. This is a time for all committee, commission, board reports, subcommittee reports, and staff informational items. The city commission reports, Park and Leisure. Do we have anyone for Parks and Leisure? Hello, right there in front of me. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. I'm Parks and Leisure Service Commissioner Jason Garola with our commission report. The final event to take place at the pool prior to its closing after Labor Day was a special needs swim session. This session was very well received, and the participants had a great time. More special needs swim sessions have already been planned for next summer. The after-school enrichment programs are in full swing at both Porterville Unified and Burton School Districts. There are over 200 part-time employees working in these programs and over 2,700 youth served. As for youth sports, fall soccer session is about halfway through. Games are played Saturday at the sports complex. Youth basketball registration begins September 12th, with spots filling up extremely fast. 3 nights remain for the 11th annual corporate games. 11 teams are vying for the corporate cup, with Walmart DC Blue in the lead, which just real quick, I really appreciate Donnie and Amy, but I am part of the corporate cup for the last 11 years, and I really enjoy it, and I am part of the Walmart Blue team, so we're knock on wood, but we continue to keep going and hopefully win the cup for the 6th time this year.
Oh, okay.
The annual Pioneer Days and Rib Cook-Off Zalad House fundraiser returned to Main Street October 8th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Registration is currently taking place for its Rib Cook-Off teams. The event will also include a pageant, live shootout, historical displays, music, and more. This concludes the report. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay. Library and Literacy Commission.
I'm always here. You can't get rid of me. My report's going to be short today. The visual story times have been continuing, and this is the one over the Facebook, and this in August, we had 1,060 English Storytime views and 1,028 Spanish, for a total of 2,088. That is a pretty good outreach, if you ask me. The bilingual Storytime is now taking place every Thursday morning at 10 a.m. at our temporary library. We're back to serving people in person. And Anna Marie and Alma do a really good job. The program is both English and Spanish. They play games with educational, educational games, coloring, kinetic, and other things, and they had 52 participants this last month. The virtual book club is now in person. There are still 13 members, and you're always invited to come. It's pretty good. Now that it's in person, I'm looking more forward to that. National Night Out on August the 1st was from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Veterans Park. The library had a booth, and a total of 352 participants visited the booth. And the staff attended a community outreach event on August 5th from 9 to 1. The library booth had flyers to promote the library and the literacy services. Participants who visited were allowed to spin the wheel we have to win little different prizes, and 211 participants visited that booth. In our literacy learners, and as someone who worked 20 years putting people to work, worked with a lot of dislocated workers, adult literacy was a very major problem, and it's something that the library does that I strongly support. And James has completed his daily math grade practice journal, and Ray successfully passed his DMV for his Class A license. And that's a big thing, believe me, and it's something we need, though we need those truck drivers. September is National Library Card Sign-Up Month. This week is Banned Books Week. How many of you have read books that are banned? If you go to Texas, Maya Angelou is banned. And Family Literacy Day will be Saturday the 24th at Centennial Park. There'll be an obstacle course, raffles, bounce house, booths. It's only for 2 hours from 10 to 12, but because it is Adult Literacy Month, and I told you how I feel about it, we need volunteers. Why don't you think about becoming a volunteer and change the life of someone? Help improve their outlook. And, well, tonight, you're going to be working on some commissioners. And the two incumbents are very good, and I hope you bring them back. And we have two really good candidates who will be new if you appoint them, who have actually already been doing a lot of volunteer work with the library. And I think it's important that because they've done that, they know what we want, and they will be an asset to our library. So when you appoint them tonight, know that we all look forward to having a full staff. And you've all heard about the grant we got, 7 point what million? Is it million? Yeah. And the city is supposed to donate, or supposed to provide, 3.2 million? And this question came up at the commission. I didn't ask it, I was just told to ask it. Is this coming from the insurance funds? Okay, that's all. I won't finish the question. That answers it. As always, it's great to have our library open, and we love the fact that you, as a council and staff, support us the way you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report. It is appreciated. Do we have Arts Commission?
Yes, Your Honor. Let me go ahead. They're online.
Please.
Hello?
Hi, please continue. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maria Minga. This is actually my first time reporting for the Arts Commission. I'm filling in for Emily Luna. So we had a meeting on August 23rd. Potential design concepts for Main Street intersections were implemented during the Main Street reconstruction project were discussed, and several suggested art concepts were also submitted to staff for consideration. One commissioner resigned from their position effective immediately due to conflicts with schedule. We now have one vacant position and a youth position available. That's pretty much the report that I have for Arts Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to clarify real quick, that was one vacant position and one youth
Youth
position?
position. Yes.
It was one
yes.
youth position. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Animal control, they had no meeting. Youth Commission, do we have anyone reporting on the Youth Commission? No? Do we have anyone reporting for Two Talk? No? Okay. We'll now go into the staff informational reports.
Thank you, Your Honor. There are two staff informational reports provided, the first being your monthly Phase 3 status update. This was for August of 2023, or pardon me, 22. As contained in the report, during August, 19% conservation was achieved over the 2016 base year for a cumulative total continuing of 25%, which is close to the goal that has been established of 26% cumulative savings. There were 25 notices of violations issued for excessive watering or watering on wrong watering days, and 4 administrative citations. Happy to answer any questions on that. The Community Development Department provided a report as well that an RFP had been performed looking for a nonprofit that would be doing exterior wheelchair ramp accessibilities. There had been interest expressed by a nonprofit, and upon that RFP, there was no solicitations. So just information. Happy to answer any questions on those.
Thank you. Mr. Lawless, does council have any questions? No questions? Those reports are appreciated. All right, we will now move on to the consent calendar. All consent calendar items are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these matters unless a request is made, in which event the item will be removed from the consent calendar. All items removed from the consent calendar for further discussion will be heard at the end of scheduled matters. How does council wish to proceed if there are no noted conflicts or items to be pulled?
I would like to make a motion on items 1 through 23, I'm sorry, 1 through 19 in the consent calendar.
We have a motion for items 1 through 19 by Vice Mayor Carrillo. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
And we have a second by Councilmember Tate. No further discussion. Call for the vote, please. It passes unanimous, 5-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to the scheduled matters. Item number 20.
Thank you, Your Honor. There are 4 scheduled matters before the council this evening. The first is to consideration of appointments to Library and Literacy Commission, and Ms. Hildreth will provide that staff report. Oh, okay. I can provide it real quick. Let me jump to the staff report. You got it?
I apologize for that. Mayor, members of council, there are 2 commissioners on the Library and Literacy Commission that have 3-year terms that are expiring at the end of the month, that being Kim Bumgardner and Susan Uptain. Commissioners Bumgardner and Uptain have conveyed their interest in continuing to serve on the commission. A copy of Chair May's resignation letter was also provided. She has relocated. Commissioner Karen Stover also tendered her resignation, thereby creating another vacancy on the commission. And a copy of that resignation letter was also provided. So currently we have 2 vacancies with terms expiring in October of 2025. And how appropriately, staff is in receipt of 2 requests for appointment, one from Sonia Lopez and another from Fernando Serrano. And both copies of those requests for appointments have been provided in the council's packet. So also staff has confirmed that both applicants do reside within the city limits and therefore meet the eligibility requirements. As you know, the commission is comprised of 7 members, and those members serve in an advisory capacity, making recommendations to the city council on policy and overall goals and objectives for the library. Generally, the commission meets once per month with a hiatus during the months of June and July. And to be eligible for appointment, they must be residents of the city of Porterville. With that, staff recommends that the council consider the reappointments of Kim Baumgardner and Susan Uptain to the Library and Literacy Commission for a term to expire in October 2025, and to also consider those appointments of Sonia Lopez and Fernando Serrano to the 2 vacant seats also expiring in October 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just have one question. So with the reappointments and then the appointments, they will have a full 7?
Yes.
Thank you. That will complete, that was the question that I had. All right. How does council wish to proceed? Council.
I'll make a recommendation. I'll move that we make acceptance of the staff's recommendation. Sorry.
We have a motion by Councilmember Stowe
I'll second that.
and a second by Councilmember Wyrock. No further discussion. Call for the vote. Passes unanimous, 5-0. Thank you. We will now move on to item number 21.
Thank you, Your Honor. Next item is consider authorization for Centennial Park mural restoration, and Mr. Moore will provide that staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Morales, Honorable Mayor, and members of the council. On April 21st, 2012, the Marching Through Time band mural in Centennial Park was unveiled. The Porterville Mural Committee spearheaded the campaign for the development of a mural that depicts the history and importance of bands and music in Porterville. Over the past several years, the mural has sustained significant fading, flaking, and deterioration of the paint. The artist of the mural began researching the problem and companies which might help find a solution. After an extensive search for someone possessing such a specialized trait, along with the willingness to travel to Porterville, Fine Arts Conservation Laboratories, FACL, committed to visiting the mural and assessing the potential project. FACL was under contract with the City of Los Angeles for mural restoration and submitted a draft contract agreement to restore the Marching Through Time band mural. Should the City Council authorize FACL to perform the work, it would be in 2 phases. First phase would be focused on stopping deterioration. After that portion is complete, the artist, Glenn Hill, will undertake pictorial restoration as a separate phase of the project from FACL's work. Once the artist has finished his work, FACL would conduct phase 2, which will be the application of the protective layers. The protective measures will ensure greater longevity than has existed with past varnish layers. At its meeting on October 19, 2021, the council authorized the agreement renewal between the city and the Porterville Mural Committee for the Marching Through Time mural in Centennial Park. The agreement states that the committee shall apply a protective coating as needed that will aid in preservation efforts. The agreement goes on to say that any repairs, costs, and expenses will be the responsibility of the Porterville Mural Committee. At its meeting on May 25, 2022, the city's Arts Commission voted unanimously to recommend that the council authorize the restoration of the mural. In its adoption of the 2022-23 fiscal year budget, the council appropriated $40,000 for the Marching Through Time band mural restoration project out of the City Council Special Purposes Reserve Fund. This project would not include work being done on the back side of the mural. The $40,000 would cover the restoration portion by FACL. The second expense of the project is for the original artist, Mr. Glenn Hill, to repaint the mural for an amount not to exceed $37,500. Staff recommends the appropriation for the artist be made from the opening of the 2 cannabis dispensaries, which the terms of the city's development agreement stipulate the payment of 1% of annual gross revenues or $30,000, whichever is greater, toward a community benefits program, including community beautification efforts and physical improvements to the benefit of the community. The development agreement also states the owner agrees to provide a historical artistic feature as a component of its project located at or near the property within the first year. Staff's recommendation is that the City Council authorize FACL to restore the mural in Centennial Park for $38,227 and provide direction for the repainting of the Centennial Park mural. That concludes staff report. I'd be happy to answer any question. We also have Ms. Denise Marchant in the audience tonight representing the mural committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Does council have any questions for Mr. Moore to this regard? Don't be shy, council. Do you have any questions, any comment? Councilmember Tate? Councilmember Stowe?
No comment, but I would like to make a motion that we go off of staff's recommendation to take the money from.
Before you guys vote on this, I just wanted to point out that what's on there right now is a scope of services. There will be some contract language added that the city needs for its standard contracts, since this is going to be a direct contract with FACL and the city. Just wanted to point that out. So it's not you're not approving the contract in its form, but the substance tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Then I approve the substance for tonight.
Subject to legal review.
Subject to, all right. Do we have a second?
I know.
I have a question now, so.
I'm going to second for discussion.
Okay.
Since we have a motion, so go
I
ahead.
should have waited for the second before I even piped up, so I apologize.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, part of the recommendation was that we provide direction for the repainting of the mural. Did we need to provide that direction right now with the part of the motion?
Yes, there was one mention in there about the city's development agreement with the cannabis dispensary, so that would be one option as to a way to fund it.
So you can include that within your motion, the direction that we do that we have those funds come from the opening of those 2 businesses.
All right. Councilmember Stowe, you want to revise your motion to include that?
Yeah, as soon as I turn this thing off.
As soon as you turn that off, please.
Tell them it's something. Oh, bless you. Okay, now what was I doing? I revised my motion to.
To include the
to-
recommendation, legal
include the
counsel?
recommendation from the cannabis group.
But the funds
or-
come from the opening of the 2 cannabis businesses?
Yes,
Correct, okay. Is that what you guys are
I
looking
thought
for?
that's what I said the first time.
You did.
Yeah, so
I heard.
staff is seeking to negotiate with the cannabis businesses as well on their public art feature or element to see a contribution that could be made in lieu of that art piece that to have on their structure could be included as a component of this as well. And then also, Mr. Donnie Moore will be bringing back another item when that comes forth.
We have the motion. Would you just summarize it for me?
The motion is to approve staff's recommendation to approve the expenditure of the 38,000, go back to the recommendation. Contract open.
So you have a defined figure now. You had a
Okay.
budgeted 40,000, you had a defined figure for the actual, that's the 38,227. And then with your direction to proceed through the development agreements.
Thank you
for
very
the
much, because Councilmember Stowe had made the motion. Now we have the clarification and the summary. I'm the one that made the second, so now there is no further discussion. Call for the vote, please. It passes unanimous, 5-0. Thank you very much. And we will now go on to the next item.
And thank you, Your Honor. Next item is going to be to consider bid results for the Center Fryant Kern Canal Turnout and Basin Project. I have a conflict of interest given proximity of real property to the project, so I'll
Thank you.
turn it over
You'll
to-
have to excuse yourself.
Thank you, Your Honor, and Mr. Javier Sanchez will be presenting this item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hildreth, Mayor, members of council. On September 13th, staff received 4 bids for the Center Frying Kern Canal Turnout and Groundwater Recharge Basin Project. The project includes the installation of new water pipelines, concrete structures, earthwork, and other related items as shown on the plans for the project. This project is important as it will help the city meet the requirements of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act and help meet water system demands. The engineer's estimate was $1,120,900. The low bid presented by Romanazzi General Engineering of Exeter is $1,395,635, which is $274,735 over the engineer's estimate, which is right around 24.5%. An additional $139,563 is necessary for construction contingencies, and that same amount is required for construction management, quality control, and inspection services for a total construction cost of $1,674,761. It's been the City Council's policy to reject all bids when they exceed 10% of the engineer's estimate. Although the possibility exists that the city may receive favorable bids if re-advertised, it is unlikely as several bids were received. In this case, we received 4. One thing that's important to note is that the work in the Frying Kern Canal is only allowed from November 1st of this year through January 31st of 2023. And if we were to re-advertise, this project may be delayed up to 3 years because that's about the typical time frame that the Frying Kern Canal is taken down for maintenance. And as you can see there, that's a bid summary. Funding for the project in the amount of $1,345,080 of water replacement funds was previously approved. An additional water replacement fund amount of $329,681 are required in order to fully fund the project. Staff recommends that City Council award the Center Frying Kern Canal Turnout and Basin Project to Romanazzi General Engineering in the amount of $1,395,635. Authorize progress payments up to 100% of the contract amount. Authorize a 10% contingency to cover unforeseen costs. Authorize an additional $139,563 for construction management, quality control, and inspection services. Authorize the finance director to authorize $329,681 in water replacement funds to fully fund the project, and authorize the city engineer to negotiate construction surveying services with one of the firms approved by a previous council minute order number. I'm available if anybody has questions.
Thank you very much for that report, Javier. It's very detailed. And those of you that have been involved in some of the Fryant Kern discussions know the importance of timing while they're working on the canal. Does council have any questions of Mr. Sanchez? Please. Vice Mayor?
I have no question.
No question? Mr. Councilmember Wyrock?
Javier, what part of the bid were they most over the engineer's estimate? Was there a specific line item or multiple line items? Do you recall?
That's a good question. As I recall, it was pretty much just the whole bid. Everything was a little bit over than our estimate.
Okay, thank you. And then is there anything in contract language that local suppliers need to be used to provide the materials for the job that may be needed?
There are not, no. As long as the prime contractor is licensed and any subs are licensed as well, this bid did not have any local restrictions on it.
Thank you very much. No further questions.
Vice Mayor?
I'd like to make a motion. First of all, thank you for the detailed report. I think there was a lot of covering of addressing the scenarios that we're dealing with on a lot of these projects. So thank you for all those details in the staff report, excellent report. With that, I would like to make a motion that the City Council award the Center Frank Kern Canal Turnout and Basin Project. Should I read every item on
We'll go
the?
through staff recommend, one through 6.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve staff's recommendations 1 through 6 as written.
We have a motion by the Vice Mayor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Councilmember Wyrock. All right, call for the vote. No further discussion. Passes unanimous, 5-0. Thank you. We'll need Mr. Lawless back back in. Oh, okay. Thank you. And we will now go on to number 23. Please, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's right. Final scheduled matter this evening, Your Honor, is consider the Tulare County Regional Transit Agency request for financial support. Last week, a number of meetings were conducted in light of circumstances that the Tulare County Regional Transportation Agency was finding itself in due to inadequate working capital to be able to satisfy its debts, specifically in terms of payment for provision of services for contracted carriers for transit. And kind of in a long story how to get from here to there, the TCRTA is in its first year, beginning July 1st, of serving as the administrative oversight of now the consolidation of all of the transit providers under a singular contract. Previous to that, the different agencies contained within the TCRTA had their own agreements. City of Porterville had its with SM Transit. And as part of the consolidation that became effective July 1st, there was an RFP that was put out for providers, which in the end, the TCRTA selected Transdev, which became the contractor, which has a subcontractual agreement with SM Transit to provide transit services in the City of Porterville, City of Tulare, Woodlake, and Lindsay. So 4 communities that are served on a subcontracting basis by SM Transit to the prime contractor, which is Transdev. Anyways, working capital was not adequate to do that. They initially, TCRTA looked to secure a loan, a $5 million loan from the county treasury that would provide it then the working capital to be able to do that as it's awaiting its reimbursement for services from the FTA. Unfortunately, it was the determination of the county treasurer that TCRTA was not an eligible agency for that, to which I'm not explicitly certain as to why, but in any event, it was not found to be an agency that could be supported in such a way. So then it became a matter of how do we ensure that as the member agencies, which we are all a member of with the exception of Visalia, to ensure that the services that have been provided by the transit providers, they're paid for. And so right now there are 2 months, July and August, without payment. And essentially on the cusp of going the ending of transit services across Tulare County, October 1st. So a number of meetings precipitated last week, and a meeting of city managers and the county CAO prompted what the proposal is that you're being considered this evening. You are the first considering this. We wanted to ensure that this was before the council in a timely fashion. The City of Tulare, City of Woodlake, City of Lindsay, and the County of Tulare are all succeeding you. But the hopes is that each of these agencies will be considered the proposal that's before you that would be taken action upon by the TCRTA at a special meeting to be scheduled for next week. Most likely after Tuesday of next week, which in the County of Tulare will be scheduling it. So essentially there are three agencies that really move the needle in this regard, and it's the City of Porterville, City of Tulare, and County of Tulare. And you see the proportional share, which is just a breakdown of what those costs are as an estimate for 4 months, which constitutes the $5 million that was being sought for working capital. So the City of Porterville's proportional share for services rendered would be $1.6 million. And I think it's what's best here, and you have a number of people that are much more knowledgeable than myself in this. You have with you Mr. Tree, who is Executive Director of the TCRTA, and then Maria Bemis as well, City Finance Director, who's very knowledgeable in terms of the claims that you submit for payment. And I think it's important to note here that typically it is local transportation funds that serve as this working capital. And I can just speak to when we were prior to July 1st. So what was the city's relationship with Sierra Management prior to it being consolidated under the TCRTA? Well, we made payment with local transportation funds, which then sought reimbursement from state and federal programs for reimbursement. It doesn't cover everything, and that's what goes to your, you first have to pay transit out of your local transportation funds, and whatever is remaining from that once transit has, you've met your obligations under transit, you can then program for street and roads projects. So now that everything's been consolidated and we don't have that direct relationship, we don't have a direct relationship with the transit providers. Our relationship is as a member agency, the TCRTA, who has that the relationship. The approach was that each of the agencies need to, as they were previously using LTF, to provide that as the working capital for that as well. Each of these agencies were essentially doing internal loans to themselves, as the City of Porterville was. As I shared with you, these are LTF funds that you advanced, and pending reimbursements, and then once you get to the end, you make a claim actually to TCAG for your monies for streets and roads, and there's a reconciliation process for that. Again, because this is all generally by reimbursement of costs. What is being proposed, and there's been a lot of progress since this staff report was prepared on Friday to ensure it got into the agenda so you could appropriately discuss it this evening, is the County of Tulare has a draft staff report that's been presented for other agencies to review, and what they'll be proposing and going before the Board of Supervisors next Tuesday, a week from now, where they are proposing that instead of it essentially being cash flowed by LTF, that it be a loan from the general fund of the County of Tulare, and it be structured as a 5-year loan with the rate of interest to be that of the pooled investment funds of the county. So, so that is how the County of Tulare is presenting it. My recommendation to you as a member agency to the TCRTA is that there be commonality to whatever the funding approach is, and I'm sorry that I can't give you much more. That's about all I can add, although you do have those that have been, I'm just relaying to you the information that's been provided to me in meetings, as well as ongoing dialogue with Mr. Knight and Mr. Tree. Like I said, you do have Mr. Tree with you, who is actually down in Burbank promoting a Porterville project, which is your microtransit project. And actually, there's a very nice video that's been produced as part of that exhibit, and well received down in Burbank as well. So it's a true demonstration project of what microtransit looked like. So If it pleases the council, like I said, Mr. Tree's available, Mr. Knight's available, Ms. Bemis is available. You have lots of resources available to you to help frame this conversation. And again, you're the first. I wish I could tell you the dialogue that's in other jurisdictions. Mr. Tree's had a number of meetings with County of Tulare and the city of Tulare primarily, as essentially those three agencies constitute the largest cost centers of that contract.
Oh, that's a lot of information. I mean, it seems like from one day to the next, but having this brought just in a highlight at TCAG yesterday, indicating that cities would be taking this information to city councils, you know, it's a lot. Mr. Tree, I know that you've been diligently working on this, and you've had several communications to this regard. So I want to say sometimes this just doesn't fix the problem. We have to keep working on it and focus on an emphasis on working capital to have it ready. These funds, this ask of funds, are these reimbursable funds?
Honorable Mayor and members of the council's greetings from Anaheim. As Mr. Lawless had spoken, I am down south presenting the great efforts that we've been doing in the community. To your point, the current structure that's being proposed by the County of Tulare is that the funds would be repaid over a period of 5 years. What that essentially means is the agency utilizes local transportation funds to pay its debt, and so that is the only source of funds that the agency would utilize to repay this loan.
Thank you. Do council members have questions of Mr. Tree? Oh, Mr. Lawless?
I just wanted to add another. So TCAG recently took an action to advance Measure R funds that were set aside for transit as well. And I would speculate that there may be other advances. So there's Measure R funds that have been in the expenditure plan allocated for transit, which I think 3 months, Rich, is that what's been advanced, I think, at this point?
Yeah, Mr. Laws, last month we went to TCAG, understanding that we were going to have a cash flow situation on our hands. We actually advanced 1 year's worth of the combined member agencies transit Measure R apportionment, which totaled roughly a little over $1 million.
Okay, sorry, I had the months wrong. And in my conversations with Mr. Smalley on this issue, which is a significant one, given this was a priority of TCAG over several years. So this has been a several-year effort that's come to fruition and direction by TCAG to form this to ensure that it remains viable and functional and achieving the goals that it was established to do, which was to provide a common ride experience across Tulare County with uniform technology and efficiencies of common administration, common planning, and things of that nature. And quite frankly, under Mr. Tree's expertise and leadership, having the rest of the transit systems across Tulare County resemble yours. That's quite frankly, in fact, that's what everybody wants. They want it right now, and as you can well attest to, this has been a couple years in the making to get to where we are. It just doesn't, you just don't get to speak it into existence. So I appreciate Mr. Tree's diligence, and actually he's done a remarkable amount of work by himself. Yeah. He has an agency of one. He's been unable to hire any staff because he doesn't have any capital. So he's done a remarkable job with some part-time assistance. I do want to say there is some assistance that's been provided to him by TCAG, clerical assistance and some financial assistance from the TCAG finance director and clerical staff. But that's more just to try to assist in some of the reporting. But I just want to commend Rich on the great job that he's done as a staff of one. And what he's been able to achieve securing, and the council will recall that when we joined the TCRTA, I shared with you, they needed you more than you needed them. And because they want to implement the very things that you've done. They're more efficient, they improve rider experience and things of that nature. So, but I did want to add, my conversations that I've continued to have with Mr. Smalley about ensuring that that this priority of TCAG and an improved transportation system across Tulare County is successful. And so there are things that you may see in the future when you're talking about this. This resolves, what's proposed tonight resolves the immediacy of the nature of the situation. However, it's not the end of it. And that's where conversations I've had with Mr. Smalley about, instead of the year's advance, it may be a 3 years advance to give them the necessary cash flow to be able to do this. Because my question to Rich is, and this is what I would say, so if this buys you working capital to November, what's the plan for December?
Well, first of all, I want to just echo and just align some of that conversation that you just shared. This was a conversation back that started in 2016 at a board retreat, at a planning session with TCAG, and how input was by all the cities that were brought to the table. So this has been going on for quite a long time as far as the fruition of the Tulare County Regional Transit Authority. And this is what we're dealing with now, and this is what we are faced with. I am looking at council members. Do you have any questions of Mr. Tree or staff? We have Mr. Knight and Maria on the line.
I do have a question.
Please.
Mr. Lawless, with that being said, that county's going to come back and for the loan, are we delaying this recommendation for tonight and to see what's going to happen with them?
So what should really be happening right now, this is cart before the horse kinds of things, but unfortunately there's not sufficient time to get it correct. Because literally there's a crisis that's going to start October 1st. And that could, just know that the cessation of transit across Tulare County is a real possibility. Which then folks that rely on that for transportation to medical appointments, employment, and other services are going to be severely interrupted. So what you have in front of you is what is the proportional share. The financing structure hasn't been worked out. County of Tulare is making it clear what their terms are going to be. What should be happening is that the TCRTA should be defining what the financing should be based around this, and then having its member agency as adopted. Unfortunately, there was supposed to have been a meeting last night that was canceled because of this circumstance and needing to go to the councils to talk about basically who's in and who's not. If you're not in, you're basically saying you're not going to have transit operating in your jurisdiction October 1st.
In October the 1st, and the date is, and we're the first city to
So
have
the action would be then sort of a contingency action, is what we're looking at.
Okay.
So the action would be to go ahead and if necessary, to basically appropriate up to the 1.6 million? If needed, with, subject to, trying to promote consistency of terms amongst the groups. But that way that authority is there if needed, understanding that this thing could look a little bit different. And obviously the city will be back and report to you if any further actions are needed or if, we will, when we have more clarity, because we will.
Do other council members have questions? Please, Mr. Wyrock.
So I agree that I think it would be nice if the county were to create the proposal and allow us time to vet it and understand it. Seems like we're asked at the last minute to make a decision without a long-term solution, and it's been growing over 2 years. So I'm not sure who's in charge of the schedule and making sure all of this happens. And, I have a question about billables, and are there certain receivables coming in between now and October 1st? Are there you know, are there other ways to fund? If the Treasury wasn't willing to advance any funds, and we're not sure if they can get a loan from the county, then we give them this amount of money with a 5-year payback and possibly another advancement in December to help carry them over. So I'm a little concerned about voting for this, but I don't want our transit to stop October 1st. Does staff have any ideas on ways that we can run our buses for our people if the county isn't laying out the plan to keep them running countywide? I don't want our people to be stranded.
Yeah, and it's one that we've talked through as staff ourselves, that it's actually a contractual law circumstance. So our local transit, so the prime contractor is TransDev, which is an international transportation firm, large firm. They're the primary, and then they subcontract for part of the, so instead of their personnel driving in Porterville and in the Tulare, in Lindsay and Woodlake, it is SM Transit. And you're talking about, which is a local business, one that we've worked with, and they've expanded to help meet this, which is great. You have 60, an employee count of 60 now out of Porterville, I understand, that's involved in SM Transit, providing transit services for the different it's all one jurisdiction, it's all Tulare County, but it's, you have communities of benefit, I guess I would call it, where that's where the subcontractor is providing services, and then TransDev is the employer for the county. And is Dinuba under TransDev, or is it under SM Transit as well, Rich?
Dinuba is being served by TransDev.
TransDev, okay. So, so our internal conversation has been, and this is, and because this is a federal contract, so this is under the Federal Transit Administration. They are the fiduciary agent, which is another complicating factor to this, and it is something that we are aware of, that with this drawdown that is anticipated to occur by the Tulare County Regional Transportation Agency in November, that essentially they are now the responsible agency that, should there be a dissolution, the city of Porterville would not be able to make, there would have to be a registration, for lack of a better word. So right now, the city of Porterville is no longer an FTA recipient of funds. It's delegated that to the TCRTA, as is the county and those and such. Once they take that, it's going to be a year before that can be reversed. So I certainly wish this was not before you with 2 weeks to, or a week and a half to when, things have to be determined. But the plans for working capital fell through. And so, as with most joint powers authority, it then falls back to the member agencies to resolve those financial challenges. And you have three of your representatives, not as a Brown Act violation, but as you have a member and you have an alternate. So your member representative to TCRTA is Councilmember Stowe. This has been briefed. This issue has been briefed to them in terms of the potential exposure that agency has. Given their plans for funding were not met. And then we have a nose member as an alternate. And then not a voting member, but the vice mayor in the role as the TCAG public transit representative is advisory, but a non-voting member of the TCRT as well. So you have 3 voices on that board as well. So if there is a message you wish to carry to TCRTA, you have the voices to do it. And even more so with the vice mayor, because she speaks for, she's, in her role, is speaking for the riders and the accountability that the agency has to TCAG and to the riders of Tulare County.
I have a question. So October the 1st, we need, that is the date. There could probably be no transportation for anyone, because it would end on October the 1st. And if there was the appropriation of the 1,600,000, if it was needed to use it, it would be conditional if needed to use it. And if the county makes their decision on Tuesday, if we were to make I'm not saying that we are, but if we were to make and I'm looking at legal counsel, maybe Maria can help me, I don't know. But here again, if we decide as a council to have an appropriation made with the if needed to use it, and it's not used, we can come back and do something else with that 1 million.
Yeah, I'm trying to come up with, I'm doing what you're doing.
I'm trying to because the last thing I don't want, and I'm only speaking for myself, is if we have October the 1st and then transportation just immediately stops. And I don't want to see that happen in our city. And I want to thank Rich for all his assistance that he's done from the beginning of transportation. You're always welcome to come back. That's all I'm saying. I miss you.
Pack your bags, dude.
I mean, but you're one person that has a lot of respect from this council, those of us that have worked with you. And when the transit person and being able to obtain, it's a different in your position over there, and I understand this. But you were very instrumental in getting a lot of the grants and a lot of funding and a lot of resources. So I do have that faith in that, but I'm looking at what is being presented here, and I'm trying to work with it to be able to say, we need to have transportation for all the members of our community, because if we don't have transit, we don't have the transportation. And yet, the appropriation of the 1,600,000 to it, I'm here again, it really doesn't fix the problem, it's a solution. And perhaps
It's a stopgap, that's all it is.
but this is what I'm saying, and I'm understanding to that. Yet, I also know that the discussions just started, and they've just been happening very rapidly outside and being brought to us.
Can I, here's a couple options.
Okay.
Well, let me get the easy one out of the way. The first option would be to actually just consider holding off and potentially scheduling a special meeting after we
Okay.
see what the county does, I suppose. So that is one potential option. You would just have to schedule something between now and October 1st. So that's option one. Option two, if you're trying to make a motion, some kind of contingent motion tonight, you could make a motion to appropriate our portion of the funding, which was the 1.6 million, subject to, at the bare minimum, the following conditions. That, well, number one, the contribution of the portions of the other member agencies by the other member agencies are also approved. Number two, that there is a formulation of some sort of common uniform process and standard by which the funds are going to be spent or potentially returned if not needed due to alternative sources of funding that are found. I don't know, can you think of a number three? Is there anything else you think you should be in there if you're going to do that? And a provision that they be reimbursed if not used and returned to the member agencies. That was my number three. That's what I can think of now without trying to keep it not too specific, but specific enough that there's some conditions on the use of the funding, and with the report back to council. And if agreements can wait, once we get to that point, if agreements can wait to be approved, they will. We'll bring them back. to the next regular meeting, if you guys want to go with that option. So that would be option 2.
That's the
Contingent.
option, the contingency option.
Option 1 is continue and
No.
let's see what happens and
Well,
try
I
and have another meeting.
I have a problem with the wait and to see what happens, but if there is a contingency motion that is placed with everything that you just stated, I would personally attend the Board of Supervisor meeting on Tuesday to hear what the outcome is. I would go, but yet I don't want to hold off because I don't know where it is they're going to go. And I would not have a problem with going to the Board of Supervisor meeting on that day to hear what they are discussing.
Another part of this conversation, and Rich, so here's the irony. So Rich has done what he was asked to do. He's gone out and secured $30 million in grant funds to buy new buses and infrastructure and those sorts of things to replicate what you've done. So the 1.6 million is just operations. This isn't capital as well, which in that grant comes capital match. As with any grant you receive, you typically have a 10 to 20% match towards that. So that's not your problem. But when you look at the 1.5 million that the county of Tulare and the city of Tulare are looking at, they have significant matches to capital. So this is just operating costs. And this is it's not your problem. You've already have the system and you've done the hard work. The other agencies haven't, and they're stuck in that circumstance now. So it's just not 1.5 million to them. The county of Tulare has already said, hey, we can't make those matches. So can we stretch those grant dollars out over 5 years? Because we can't afford, and that's a suspect term when I say they can't afford, because what they're trying to do is try to do two things. Again, as I shared, you have to spend this money to do transit, and then in whatever's left over, you do roads with. That's not the other way around. Well, we'll do roads and we'll give you $1 million to do transit. Not the way it works. Transit gets paid first, and with what's left over, you submit a claim for road monies. So, the numbers you're looking at are just operations. The county of Tulare and the city of Tulare are looking at much bigger numbers.
Councilmember Wyrack.
Thank you. I'd like the explanation and the possibility for a motion that's contingent. But I fully believe the Board of Supervisors will come to the table with some solutions. There's been one activity as to, the Treasury advance. There's other ones available. And then there's this that's presented today in the letter from Mr. Tree seeking these funds. So I would be okay with a conditional motion made by someone to have these funds available should they need be, so that we can keep transit growing throughout the county and ridership may be streamlined between the different communities that our riders may need to go through.
Thank you very much for your comment. Do you have any comments over here? Councilmember Stowe?
I'm in favor of the contingency motion.
Councilmember Tate? Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I have one additional comment added to what council member said. I think, this is last minute, but I have, because, being the representative, and just being new to that and trying to get caught up on all the information and things, there has been really diligent discussion around this. So although it's last minute, I think it's just the timing piece that is kind of making it complicated, but there's been a diligent reach out to also establish meetings as, soon as this week and next week. So I feel like that's part of the planning to get something in place, and I do like the contingent and also standardizing the plan moving forward. And I do strongly believe that I don't feel like we have a choice as far as stopping or allowing there to be a gap in any type of services that's important to our community.
Pardon?
I do have a question.
Please, go ahead.
Maybe Rich or John can answer. How did it get to this point that we don't have enough funds? Did people not pay, or?
The county treasury didn't make a loan. It's that simple.
They just-
There were representations that was
There were
going to happen.
representation that was going to happen, and it didn't
And
happen.
there was reliance on the representations.
And they have,
it did not happen.
they have received the RT funds already, and they just didn't make a loan from those funds, or?
No,
That
the working capital was going to come from the county treasury as they had made loans to TCAG and LAFCO.
Yeah.
There was a decision made not to do that to TCRTA. That's a question best asked of the assessor.
May I,
That is, please, go
may I
ahead.
ask kind of a related question? So the revenue, the billables to operate aren't there for the subcontractor. Are there enough revenues planning to be provided by the contractor to the county that will eliminate this need for stopgap funding?
So that's the question that I really have for Rich. I mean, you solve the problem to November, what does December look like?
Yeah, thank you. It is a good question. Ultimately, there should have been a financial plan that was agreed by the member agencies years prior to the formation of this agency, to allow the agency, day one, to have the working capital to proceed with both operating and capital projects. Unfortunately, that was not established. We identified the problem as quickly as we could. Went to the county treasurer as it was elected that this agency be utilize the county services. Unfortunately, as Mr. Law said, that opportunity was not afforded to the agency. The county administrator is willing to assist the agency to pursue with the treasurer to find out why that request was denied in an effort to establish funding some working capital in the future. To get to the point, you're exactly correct. This is a stopgap for the immediate cash flow issue. There needs to be immediately an agreement between the three large agencies to agree to what financial support it will take to establish the working capital for this agency long term. And there's very limited funds to establish that, and you may already understand that local transportation funds would be at the top of the discussion to establish the agency long term. If that wasn't agreed upon, then the agency would essentially be back in a similar position with trying to work through a cash flow problem in 6 months as it waits for reimbursement from the state or federal funding sources, and then waiting to make one of two claims. It can only make a claim for local transportation twice a year. So it's a 6-month cycle that will happen time and time again, where understanding that the county's proposal is a loan doesn't really solve the agency's problem. We're going to have to pay that back. So we did stress that the need to immediately work through a long-term financial plan to establish the agency long-term without having to go back to the agencies every 6 months.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to bring it back to council. I know that we've had a lot of discussion. It's been a lot of good discussion. Vice Mayor, as the representative for the cities, this will be a discussion at your meeting to this regard. And it's my position to TCAG. We do have these discussions because the discussion was brought to the table back in 2016 to the fruition as to where we are now. And the transit agency, the Tulare Regional Transit Agency, was formed, and we made an investment in it along with the others. But again, diligently, we just cannot stop transportation and not help and assist to some regard. I am going to say that contingent summarization that legal counsel presented to us, I have no problem with that contingency motion, to make a motion on that. If she doesn't mind going over it one more
Yes, I will do
time.
my level best here to do that. So that was option, I think I called it option 2.
Option 2,
That
yes.
was to appropriate the $1.6 million of funding and authorize it be provided to the JPA at a minimum of the following conditions. And A was that the contributions of the respective portions were also provided by the other member agencies. That there would be a commonality of the process and terms by which that money is provided and expended and potentially reimbursed. And of course, number 3 being that it is subject to reimbursement if not needed, and that other alternative avenues continue to be pursued to deal with this issue. So that would be option 2.
With the option 2, and that's what I wanted to hear again. And I just want to make one comment, that I do plan to be at the Board of Supervisor meeting on Tuesday, just to hear the conversation and see where it is they're going to go with the financing of their portion or their discussion or what it is they're going to do, because this is important. And I know that this item will be a discussion item for the other cities as well.
Well, and the long-term financial fund, cash flow management has to be addressed because this doesn't do that. This just is, like was said, this is just the stopgap.
And that's why I said there's other,
Right.
my conversations with Mr. Smalley includes, Rich talked about a 1-year advance.
Okay.
There could potentially be a 3-year advance, which would be $3 million. So there is other efforts to try to get in front of this. But the question that was asked, the real precipitation of why now is that in the end, the county treasury said no. And so then it became, well, if that's not those representations were made and not met, so now what? So that's where we're at.
All right.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can we define, I'm reading item 23, and it says ongoing transit operations. Can we specify that the funds be used to keep it operationally effective for the citizens of Tulare County?
Absolutely. I think it's a great addition. The contingent that it be,
I hate to see it go to a consultant.
No, it needs to be for the provision, the continuation of services. I fully agree
Thank
that
you.
that's.
So in that option 2? We're
Yeah.
putting that in
It's
that
the
option 2?
purpose, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, and I appreciate that. Are there any other questions? I'm going to bring it back to council. Any more comments? And with all the dialogue that we have had, I'm going to make the motion with option 2 with the legal counsel summary that was brought to the table and all of us council members heard. That is the motion.
For the purpose of continuation of services.
For the purpose of continuation of services.
Second.
Okay, we have second by Vice Mayor Carrillo. Is there no further discussion? I'm going to call for the vote. Passes unanimous, 5-0. Thank you, council members, for the dialogue and the discussion. Mr. Tree, thank you. Mr. Knight for being on standby. Maria, I know you're on there somewhere.
Yes, she is.
But thank you very much, because it is important, and your participation is always welcome. It is appreciated. Okay. Now, we will move on to oral communications. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward during oral communications?
Brock Neely, address on record. I like the comments that Councilmember Wyrick had on the construction project of, local suppliers and everything. The other thing I'd like to see is a tiered system where if a contractor uses foreign-made equipment, they get less payment than if they use American-made equipment. The sewer projects that are being done off of North Grand over there on Beverly, they're using Komatsu equipment made in Japan. Caterpillar makes that same type of equipment. John Deere makes that same kind of equipment. They hire Americans. Just saying.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone, please?
Good evening. Denise Marchant, 114 Sandra Court, Porterville, and member of the Mural Committee. And I couldn't leave tonight without just saying a very big thank you to the staff. And first I should say Honorable Mayor and City Council and staff, Mr. Lawless. All of you, I think several of you know what this project is near and dear to my heart. It has been since its inception. And I know there are several members of the original committee who are looking down on us, who are no longer with us tonight, and looking down and smiling because this was such an important project to them. And I also wanted to let you know Scott Haskins, who is the member of the FACL, get it right. He is traveling right now across country. He goes all over the country and all over the world to work on these projects. We were extremely lucky to find him, and he's just very committed to this project. These types of projects are near and dear to his heart. And he actually came on, he was at the airport, and he came online and was available if you had any questions of him. And he's told me more than once that he is open to answering questions or doing presentations or anything like that in the community to talk about the preservation and the restoration of the mural. And I just thank you all, especially John, Mr. Lawless, thank you so much, and Donnie, and all of the work that you have done to make this happen. And I know my prayers are answered, and I have a big smile on my face, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Denise. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward?
Hello, my name is Fernando Serrano. I'm a researcher for the UFW and an adjunct professor of history for Porterville College. And I just want to thank you for voting to approve my appointment as commissioner for the Library and Literacy Commission for the city of Porterville. This is a great opportunity for me to serve my community in a way that I am very passionate about. And please let me know if you have any questions. Again, thank you for your trust.
Thank you so much, and congratulations. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Do we have anyone on virtually?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Would you like to say something? We'll now go into other matters. Councilmember Tate?
I just would like to tonight was a very positive meeting. We got, and that's really what makes this position rewarding, is to feel like you're making a difference in your community and that you're working together as a team to essentially meet all of the goals that some of us set. I know I have my goals as far as representing the city. And so I really appreciated all of the positive feedback that we got from different people that attended this evening. And thank you for the staff this was a complicated agenda, but you made it easy for us to be able to understand, and same goes for our city attorney. Welcome back. We missed you. And so anyway, thank you very much. This was a very pleasurable evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stowe?
I have nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
Councilmember Wyrock?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I agree. A great staff preparation, great reports, a lot of good information available to the public. It's a lot of documents, and if people read them and find something of interest that they'd like to come to the council and talk to us about, the mic's open, so I'd like to just extend that invitation once again to all of our citizens to come and be a part of what we're trying to do here in Porterville for us all. I did follow up on a couple of things related to some comments last week. I spent a little time out at Veterans Park, and I just enjoyed the sunshine on a bench and had a little snack and walked around the, excuse me, the memorial. And I saw the new flag, the POWMIA flag as well. I saw the tribute to the lives that were lost. And the prevention of vandalism was, I guess, the main point. And although I think George Bush said it, you know, after 9/11, even though you don't see vandalism prevention activities going on in plain sight, we have an excellent team of professionals behind the scenes making sure that we keep vandalism at bay and other harm to our citizens. So I want to thank the police department for all they do with that. I'd like to also thank the council and staff for making this evening as easy as it was. The people that called in to help us come to this helped us make our decisions tonight was very helpful. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Yes. I have a few. I wanted to thank the community members also that came in this evening to speak up and just offer and acknowledge thank you, and not really necessarily to the council, but to our staff for all the work that's been done over the past year transitioning out of this pandemic and just the successful projects that have gone on and happened during that time. Some of those include recently obtaining the $7.26 million from the California State Library grant for our new library, and then the $4.4 million for the grant for the airport. So excellent work. I love hearing those updates, and always makes me so proud of our staff and all the work that's being done, in addition to everything that's going on regularly. I want to thank my peers on the dais for your updates on the League of California Cities. I was really sad that I wasn't able to go and just be with you and have good conversations, but also attend the workshops. But I thank you because just your brief updates to me were very informative and I think useful. I took a lot of notes, and I'll probably be asking some questions about, I really, was happy to hear about the cannabis taxing information and how to use those funds and invest them, but also the recycling information. I know that's interesting that you brought that up because our city manager actually brought that up a while back and just gave us the heads up on that. That mandate that's going to be coming up for homes and schools. But that's, I think, what, I'm always impressed with our staff is we're always trying to be ahead of the game. They heard about these things coming up, so right away they started looking at plans and options and things that we're going to have to put in place to make the least amount of impact on our community. So thank you for the updates on that conference. And then the last thing that I just want to mention is that the fourth Friday of September is always recognized as California Native American Day, and it's to acknowledge California Indians and tribes throughout the state of California. There's an annual proclamation by the governor. This started back in, I believe the first one was like 1939, and then it was later updated by Ronald Reagan in a later year. And there's the tribes from throughout the state come together to the steps of the Capitol, and what they do is they set up all the tribal flags around the front of the Capitol, but then the veterans set up the flags too. They do a color garden and they set up the flags there, and then elders are acknowledged from throughout the state of California. And it's an all-day event. If you're ever in the area during that time, it's a really huge event. It pretty much takes up that whole block of the Capitol. But there's a lot of different things that go on, presentations, and there's vendors, information, and then just really good interaction with really good people. During that time, there's tribal leaders meetings that go on since they're all kind of in the same area. So they try to schedule leader meetings during that Thursday, Friday, and then over the weekend. But one of the really cool, unique things, and I want to get some details on this, it's just been, I've just always been used to it, but the Tule River Native Veterans post 1987 is the ones that do the color guard for of all the tribes, all that go there, the Tule River vets are the ones that do the color guard every year. And what I want to find out is how many years they've been doing it, because it's, for as long as I can remember, they've been doing that and bringing in the flags. So that's a really, awesome thing that happens. And then the tribe usually takes a bus of tribal elders there so that they can participate in the event also. But yeah, I would just encourage the community and my peers to look into that event, just because it acknowledges the original peoples of the state. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you very much. Well, Hopper had invited me last week, and I was on air, and it was to provide City of Porterville updates on Eagle Mountain, the temporary library, the 4th Street Community Park, the animal shelter, the Heritage Sports Complex, the Mighty 190, and the airport grant. It was a good interview. It's providing the community with updates. I also attended Comisión Honorífica Mexicana Americana, the 16th of September celebration. It's for the Heritage Youth Awards, and I want to share that I'm grateful that you are now on the commission, because Mr. Serrano did a very nice PowerPoint presentation on the history of the 16th of September. In addition to that, there were 3 young ladies that were scholarship recipients, 2 from Porterville High School, 1 from Granite Hills, which I presented them with challenge coins on behalf of the city and their recognition of their award. But also I met the young lady that performed and danced that evening, and I believe she is Mr. Serrano's sister. I don't know how she stood on the cántaro, and that was amazing to watch her perform, because it was a simple dance, and yet she made it look very elegant. And I know you're going to ask me, what's a cántaro?
I was going to wait till you finish.
No, it's actually a clay. It's made out of clay, and it's where if they get water. They go to get water, and it's drinking water, and they carry the water on their shoulder or on their head. It just depends where you are in the country, but she turned that cántaro over and danced on top of it. And I would have broken it that's all I would have said, but it was a very nice event, and the scholarship recipients were very happy. I will be attending the Homeless Task Force meeting tomorrow, along with the Council of Cities, and I will be going in person. There's a lot of things that need to be shared, especially with the homeless population, and the things that we do for the city. If we're not at the table for some of these meetings in person, it's kind of difficult when you need to be present to be able to make your stands and give the updates for your city. And that concludes my report. Mr. Lawless.
Thank you, Your Honor. And just a couple of quick items. First, very pleased to have our fire crews return from the mosquito fire. Gosh, it seemed like months they were out there. So glad that they returned, both our OES crew and our patrol unit crew safely. And then also want to thank Donnie and Amy for the great job that's going on with the corporate games. City of Porterville is representing very well, although as earlier commented, Walmart Blue is...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're a little bit ahead. It looks like a 7th cup for them, but City of Porterville is in 2nd place, and it looks like it's going to hold that. We did have a 1st place in the scavenger hunt, that, and then we've been very competitive. In fact, tonight's volleyball going on right now. Hopefully it's probably going to be us and Walmart, Porterville and Walmart down on that. So,
yes.
Yeah. So.
Thank you.
So just want to say thanks to that. I don't know, City Attorney, would you like to add anything? No. Oh, okay.
I think she talked a lot tonight, more than we're glad to have you back.
It's nice to be missed.
Are you sure you would like?
Yes.
Sure, I will concede.
You want to show us any vacation photographs or anything like that?
Oh.
About 4 minutes worth.
And I'm going to do what I like to do because I see Mr. Knight, Javier, Chief Costello, they're on virtually. I know Maria won't cooperate, but I want to see them. I'd like to see them turn their camera on. Where are you, Mr. Knight? Javier, I know you're there somewhere.
He's got his jammies on.
Javier, there he is. Okay. I want to thank you very much also, and to staff, and it is 8:27. Meeting is adjourned, and who won?